Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
I'm making it through the day. It is 7:30, and I decided that the best solution for today was to make a latte. So, if you stay here for Thursday, it will be wine. Much like Jesus turns water into wine, I turn coffee into wine.
Perfect.
That is my go-to. Yeah,
I
I'm
thought
okay. It's just been a
I
yeah,
thought
go ahead.
about wine, but it's 8:30 for me, and I
Mhm,
tomorrow is a Friday of
mhm.
teaching, and somehow I feel like it's already gonna be suck enough. I don't need to be hungover while I do
Oh
it.
yeah, I have to drive. So it's bar weekend. As a real real kicker to my week. So yesterday I paid six hundred
Bar as
dollars.
in the bar of the Association of Lawyers, not as in getting drunk.
I wish it was the getting drunk kind. It is unfortunately not on the agenda. Um, but so yesterday I had to pay $600 to the bar association for my character in fitness, and I texted people and threatened them to tell them I'm fit for the bar, which I don't think is supposed to be good. Like, is
No,
a good form of character or
I'm
fitness.
I'm
But
pretty
I did
confident
that.
that is exactly what you're not supposed to do.
Right. I texted Noelle. This is all documented, and I don't care. I'm sure everyone does this. I texted Noelle because you have to have someone from everywhere you've lived, which turns out I've lived 11 places in 10 years. That's a lot of places, in case you were wondering. Um, and so I was like, I said, I put you on my bar application. I said, you just have to say I'm fit. I said, and I think, and you have to have known me for 5 years. I don't know that I've known you for 5 years, but you have to tell them you have. I was like, this is your instructions. Um, so that was my
Yeah,
character in fitness.
I
Um,
even though I live in New York State, I don't think it counts.
it doesn't, because I did think about, I was like you, but then I was like, I tried to get a really good variety. So I have Caitlin and Rachel. So they're the two people who have known me the longest, and I've lived
Yeah.
with both of them. And then I have Shania, who's in New York, and Amy, and they're who's in Baton Rouge, and they're both attorneys. And then I have Noelle and Deb, who I both worked with,
Yeah.
and one's in New York and one's in New Orleans. So I was like, that feels like a kind of have six. So I was like, that feels like a really good roundup.
Yeah.
Um, and so tomorrow I have to go an hour away to go get my fingerprinting done because while it says you can go to the local law enforcement, the small print says only if you can't make it to one of our other locations. Um, so obviously we have other locations. So I had an appointment with my local law enforcement office, which is 3 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
And I was trying to look up like how I mailed it and what I needed to do and found out I cannot do that. And so the only place available is a place in this place called Cutoff, Louisiana, which is an hour away and in the middle of nowhere. I've never been, so we'll see how it goes. Um,
Great.
and so I have to drive there in the morning because all of this has to be done by Saturday, or I have to pay an extra $850. So going in the morning for an hour. So I am leaving at 7 a.m. from my house to do that, to then drive to work for the whole day, to then drive home. So wine is probably also not the best solution for me, but
But
it is the solution I have.
correct.
So
That's fair.
here we are.
I I have
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper, and that is always the solution for me. So
Yes, that is a good one. They make a Dr. Pepper float ice cream, Bluebell, the ice cream you
oh,
can't have. I've just realized as I was saying it out loud.
why
They
can't
don't
I?
sell it above like
Oh yeah, yeah,
Kentucky.
yeah. That's right.
Um, but I haven't had it. Rachel hasn't tried it either, but it's in her freezer. I found it today.
Well, you know what I did try?
Hmm.
I tried it. Oh no, I was with you, but I wasn't with you. You were in the car with my mom, and I was in the car with my sister. Sonic's sparkling
Oh my gosh, how
sugar
is
cookie.
it?
So fucking good.
Is it the sweetest thing you've ever had?
Honestly, no.
Really? Do they still have it?
I don't know.
Rachel's like next door to Sonic, so like,
Yeah, the sugar cookie sparkling thing. I forgot. I was like, "Oh, you were with me when I tried it." But no, that was when you stayed with my mom and my sister and I left to go to the store. We stopped at
yeah.
Sonic and I got finally got the sugar cookie Dr. Pepper.
Me and your mom got 20 count nuggies and split them in the snow
Yeah.
while we were chaotically driving everywhere.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was a good
Well,
time.
it was a good time. I
So, how are you?
also having a time. Um, Yesterday was Lunar New Year, the first day of Lunar New Year,
That's
And
right. Rachel asked me today. She was like, "Isn't Lunar New Year over?" I was like, "Yeah, but like yesterday." I was like,
no, Lunar New Year was technically it's not over because technically it's 3 days. So
"Oh, I didn't
tomorrow,
realize that."
yeah, so tomorrow is the last day.
But she thought it was ages ago, and I was like, "No, no, it was
No,
like yesterday."
yeah. Well, because New York, for some reason, I have a lot of questions about the choices that New York's governor makes about education. Um,
You could have just stopped at the choices he makes.
she, um,
Oh, this is post Eric Adams. We are post Eric Adams now. He is.
oh
Who did
yeah,
you say? Did you say governor? I
I
was
said
thinking
the
mayor.
governor.
I'm so
Oh
sorry.
yeah,
I got an
no,
email from Eric Adams today.
no, the governor, Kathy Hochul.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
as I was trying to tell you that, I don't know what the fuck my husband is watching downstairs, but he is making the strangest noises, and I am so glad that the microphone will not pick that up.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't heard him at all.
it was it was obscene. Like it almost sounded like he was a girl watching porn. Like I
He's gonna love that being recorded about him.
um but anyway, New York State's education does a lot of things right and a lot of things very wrong. More
Mhm,
things wrong. Um,
mhm, mhm,
but they have this attempt to be inclusive, but then like they fail at every corner. Because like working with ENL students, trying to get like translations and things for my students, the languages that they do not offer glossaries for are absolutely wild. Um, but don't worry, we want to make sure all of our students who celebrate Lunar New Year can have the day off to celebrate Lunar New Year. Of all of my ENL students in my school, I think maybe two of them actually celebrate Lunar New Year. And granted, I know my school is not the whole state, and that we do have a significant Asian population. But I have not talked to anyone who thought this was a good idea.
mhm. No.
Because then you start to get into tricky things about like, are we going to get off Jewish holidays? Do we get off Arabic holidays? Like, at some point, if you keep including everyone, you will have no school left.
Are you not off on Jewish holidays?
No.
Okay, the city's off at Jewish holidays.
Yeah, but it's not a statewide mandate. But I'm saying, like, if
Right.
these things start becoming statewide mandates, you will no longer have
Right.
180 days with which to educate children. I also think 180 days is too low, but that's a whole other conversation we don't need to have now. But I was like, you know what? We have off for Lunar New Year, which is not a federal holiday.
Right. It's
So
not really even like regional. Like, I don't know if anybody else does that.
no, just New York State, nothing else.
Okay.
And this is the
Yeah.
first year that New York State has done that. Last
Okay.
last year they announced they were like, haha, guess what? We have a new school holiday. And we were all like, oh, okay. Um
Also, it's not like Lunar New Year is not new. So like,
yeah,
I don't
no,
know. It's
I
just
don't.
really
It's
strange the way
very
that this has
confusing.
all gone down.
But last year we had or last week we had a snow day that to be fair, I should not have left my house. It was terrible. It was the worst decision I've ever made to drive in it. It was legitimately the worst driving. Like
Yeah, I was concerned for you.
but so I was like, well, I don't have to go to work, but businesses are open, so I'll go to the Social Security office. And then yesterday, because I didn't have to go to work, but businesses were open, I went to the DMV. So I have been spending all of my free time doing the world's most awful, boring adult things, and I hate it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
my name is now legally changed
Hey,
everywhere.
I wish you changed it to Mary Kate Disney.
I'm so sorry. I
It's
feel like
okay.
Dan would think that was kind of weird.
He would, but that's your name
Yeah.
from
I don't know what would happen if you just like were like, oh, I'm getting married, but I'm taking a different name than his and it's not related to anyone I know or any just a name for fun.
me.
No, like what would happen? Like that's just a question.
What do you mean?
So sometimes when you go to change your last name and sometimes one partner will take the other's name
Mhm.
or vice versa, or they'll both hyphenate their name or they'll both
Right.
create a new last name based on last like
Mhm.
But what if I'm just imagining someone be like, oh no, he's going to keep his last name. I'm just going to change mine to something unrelated to
Oh,
either of us.
amazing. Oh, that's what I want to do now. Oh my gosh, that would upset my mom so bad. She's already upset that I said if I get married, I'm not changing my last name because it goes well with my name. And
It does
she's
though.
it does though. And like also
Yeah.
goes well with my profession. Like it just really fits me.
Yeah.
And it really sucks. And I've thought it through like everyone that I've dated over the years
You
have
know what?
such generic last names. So like
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Are you kidding me? I changed my last name to the most boring last name in the history of the world.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have. So I don't know what to tell you. That's on you. But it
Um,
also does go with your name. Like
yeah, it's
your
fine.
name still flows. And it's not
Yeah.
like you were coming from a unique name, but not like a connected name. Like Cloud is such like a oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's like in the sky. It's it's ethereal. And like now
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
business is named after a cloud. Like it's all connected. But
Yeah.
like, Lodic is an unusual name. I mean, not so much up there. You have a lot of Lodics up there, it seems. But like,
They're all related to me.
right, but there's just so many up there.
There's so many of
Um
us.
that like, but it's not like a specific thing.
Yeah. Um, I just realized how much I hate that your name on a traditional monogram is CCE instead of CEC.
Oh, you want to know who hated that 20 years ago? Me, homegirl. When it got real popular, I was like, that looks so stupid. I hate monogram. Like I don't I think I have one thing that was monogrammed in my life.
I couldn't wear monogram things because my initials monogrammed were MLK.
I didn't even think of that. That's so funny.
And I was like, this feels wrong. So I never wore monogram things either.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I just thought it was really dumb and I hated it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's amazing.
You know what else is really dumb and I hate it?
Mental health.
Yeah. So
Everything's fine.
everything's fine. So can you give me some words to help me carry on?
I can give you some words. I cannot guarantee they will have you carrying on. But they are the best I have to offer right now.
Fine.
You have to have confidence in your ability and then be tough enough to follow through. Rosalind Carter. It's Rosalind, right?
It's Rosalind, yeah.
It I don't read it a lot. I've
Yeah.
said her name, but I don't read it a lot.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this was good. I did have one more I didn't realize. So next week, don't worry, I have one.
Perfect.
All is well.
Well, this week we are talking about Stargate SG-1 Season 7, Episode 6, Lifeboat.
I didn't read the name of it, so I did not know that was the name of this episode till this second.
Got
That's a
it.
good name for it, though.
It is
It
a good name
fits.
for it. And
Yeah.
like they actually use the name in the episode, which is rare, and I really like the moment where they do. It was rated 7.6 stars, which is about average for Stargate, but I genuinely don't think it's appropriate for this. Like I think this could have been a little higher.
I think so too. So you told me before this week, did you say that this one was higher than the others or lower than the
Lower.
others?
This is lower than last
Okay.
week's, which I don't agree with. I think
I don't,
they're both complete standalone sci-fi
yeah.
episodes, but like in terms of the acting and the enjoyment of watching it, I think this one
Mhm.
should be higher.
I think so too. And I think it just felt like it was a little more well-rounded with the cast and
Yeah.
the acting was a little bit better. Not that acting was bad last time. There was just a little more acting, I felt like, in this
Yeah.
one. And I mean, obviously with Daniel. So like, I don't know. I agree. I think this one was
Yeah.
probably a little bit higher for me too.
Um, it was it came out on July 18th, 2003. We have same number one song. But the number one book was Johnny Angel by Danielle Steele. I'm sure
Was
that
it was it Danielle still you were reading, or do I ask you that every time and it wasn't?
it was not. No, it was Nora
Okay.
Roberts that I was reading
Nora
before.
Roberts.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the two of them. They are the two that everybody knows writes romance novels, and you don't have to read any of their books to know what they're about.
hmm hmm
They're both good authors. Like, I'm not saying that to like
Right. Well, no,
downplay
there's just
their.
like a very specific formula for romance.
Yes.
Like it just is what it is.
Yeah, and so like if you see someone reading, well, but I will say the current like book trends, like there's a lot of romance coming out and a lot of good new authors, but like if you're thinking like 90s, 2000s, like mainstream romance, it was either Nora Roberts or Danielle Steele.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and the number one movies was Bad Boys 2.
Didn't we just get a new one of those like a couple years back?
Did we? I don't know.
I think so. I didn't watch it, but I didn't watch Bad Boys 2 either. So
Yeah, I wasn't Bad Boys the one where oh my gosh, we did just get one literally last
yeah,
year. Bad Boys Ride or Die last year.
that's it.
That
I was gonna say Bad Boys Rise Again, and I was like, that's not right.
Ride or Die.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess that's what you're doing with your life, Will Smith.
It's Mart is I was gonna say, is it Martin Lawrence and Will
It is
Smith?
Martin Lawrence and Will Smith,
Okay.
yeah. Um didn't watch it. I think
Okay.
that in my mind Bad Boys and Wild Wild West are the same movie, which I know they're not.
Yeah,
But
they're not.
for sure not. Um
I
but
did see
I
Wild Wild West, but it's been a minute.
yeah. Um, on this day, we have some really depressing news. Dr.
Excellent.
Da
Just what we need.
yeah, Dr. David Kelly, who was a UK government official that was linked to some classified info on the war in Iraq getting leaked, was found dead of apparent suicide. So,
Yep.
you know how that goes.
Mhm.
And Kobe Bryant was charged with felony sexual assault.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I want to say the reason we all forgot about it was because he didn't get convicted.
Bro, you know who just got accused today of sexual assault?
No.
Justin
Good.
Tucker.
Oh no, you love
My kicker,
him.
my kicker. Oh gosh, I was so upset. I was so upset.
I'm looking for um to in he was charged with sexual assault, but charges were dropped after the accuser refused to testify and the lawsuit was settled out of court. Um, Bryant issued an apology and admitted to the sexual encounter, but he maintained that it was consensual. Um, so it was one of
Oh.
those things where like I would never victim blame, but the victim literally was like, no, I'm not going to court.
But also there's like it's one of those things that like now that the way it's been settled is like there's no way to really know ever
Right.
again. Like we
Ever.
just won't
Mhm.
know the
Yeah.
actual
Well,
story.
now he's dead. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I worked on the song that they played when he passed away. Or at one of his like memorials.
but yeah, but I remember it being like a big deal when he was accused, and then I remember it like going away
Just disappearing. Yeah.
and not even that, like everyone being like he didn't. It wasn't that's not what happened. Like it wasn't like a usually when something like that happens, even when people like are defending them, there's still a strong section of people who are like
Mhm.
one like always believe the victim. I mean, and granted, I was 11 when it happened, so like I
Right.
wasn't on the pulse of it the same way, but I remember it being like a thing where like everyone was like, "That's not what happened."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, so nothing good.
Nothing good.
The episode was directed by Peter DeLuise, written by Brad Wright, and edited by Brad Rhines. Our guest star, who played Farron, among others, um, was James Parks. Um, he's known for The Hateful Eight, Kill Bill Volume 1, and The Sun. He also works as a writer, and his father, Michael Parks, is also an actor, and actually in The Hateful Eight, they played father and son.
Oh, I have not watched the Hateful Eight. I'm so sorry. So
Me either, but also is The Hateful Eight Quentin Tarantino?
I think so.
Okay, because I fucking hate Tarantino.
Oh, I love Tarantino. I just haven't seen The Hateful Eight.
I I enjoy Django,
See, I was hit or miss on Django.
but I watched Pulp Fiction and literally could
Mm,
not understand why that is such a beloved movie. I hated every second of it. There was not a part of it that I enjoyed.
I
I
love Pulp Fiction. I am not your target
Oh my
audience.
God, I could not stand it. Also, to be fair, Robert, my ex, was like obsessed with Quentin Tarantino. And one time we were on a date
That'll
and we
do
were
it.
walking around Epcot, and he literally would not stop talking about like a film project of like taking all the scenes of Pulp Fiction and putting them in chronological order and like all this weird, like th indie white man film bullshit. And I was like, "Mm."
See, that's why I've never watched Fast and the Furious franchise. And I'm sure it's lovely, and I'm sure I'd like it. I'll never
Yeah,
watch it.
I
Um,
actually felt the same way about it for a while. And I'm not a big action movie person, so I'm not like, oh, you have to watch
mm,
that. But I don't I find the characters intriguing at least. Like I like the way that the characters build and I like the acting in it. I just don't like action movies.
um, I do. I think I'd really like those movies.
I think you
I
would
think they'd
too.
be tops for me. I
Yeah.
just
White
didn't get
men
my
ruined
hooks.
it.
Yeah, as they do.
Yeah.
Um, I was just about to say something else. What were you talking about? Tarantino. Oh, I also, so my friend in college was obsessed with Pulp Fiction, and I was at his house all the time. And so it was like always on. But then I really liked him as a person. So like it never took me out of it. And I don't think I've watched it all the way through.
Mhm.
But I do think I've seen all of it because I've seen so many different scenes throughout time.
I think the problem is that I have really high expectations because Jill and I once downloaded
Mm.
the AMC or the American, what is that? The yeah, Turner Classic Movies,
Oh, TMC,
the TCM
TCM. Oh my God.
100 greatest movies of all time
I downloaded
list.
that. Yeah.
And we went to go watch all the ones that we hadn't seen, starting at 100, like going backwards to like build up. And the first one on the list that we had both hadn't seen was Pulp Fiction. So we watched it, and was like, this is a fucking disaster. And then we didn't finish the list because I was so mad.
See, I knew I'd like Jill. I knew I'd like
Oh,
her
she
because
hated the movie too.
it doesn't matter. This is the same kind
Okay.
of stuff I do. I have pulled this same list and been like, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this, and I have not.
Yeah. We made it through
Um,
one
but
movie.
I did pull it at the same time that I pulled the Marvel list and the Disney list, and I
Mm.
have gone through a lot of the Disney ones. But I'm in that weird 70s time period where everything just kind of sucks. It's a lot of live action that's just kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
But I am making it through Marvel pretty well. I actually just finished Luke Cage season 1 last night, so
Uh,
still going strong. But yeah,
I'm trying to think oh, this track list. I'm trying to go through, find this list and see the 100 greatest movies. Um, that is not it. I can't find it. I remember watching this thing a million times, like on TV, but I cannot find the actual
um,
official.
isn't it the one that had they had it had
Oh,
like
I
the
found it.
scratch off
Oh, I
too.
found it. Posted it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. This is, yeah, it must have been that was the first one that we both hadn't seen because I for sure have not seen Unforgiven or The Searchers. Or
Mm-mm. I don't think I've
maybe,
heard of them.
yeah, yeah, I don't know, but it was a struggle. Um,
I do like action movies, and I love a gangster style movie. And Pulp Fiction isn't like gangster, but it's enough that it fits the bill. It's not, what's the one, the Irish gentleman? Is that the one that just came out?
The
I say
Irishman.
it came out, The Irishman came out like
Yeah,
7 years ago. It did not
yeah.
just come out. Um, Loved that movie.
I have only watched two movies that I have never seen before. Or maybe, no, I've only watched two movies, period, in the year 2025.
What movies have you watched?
Paddington and Paddington 2.
Oh, right.
So I don't think I really have room to talk about movies.
I don't think I watched any movies this year. Oh, no, I watched a lot of movies this year because my parents came in town and all we do is
Yes.
watch movies.
Yes.
I think we watched like 12 movies while they were in. So I've watched a bit.
Yeah, no, not me. Paddington, that's where I'm at. Did I
Yeah,
sob through both of them? Yes, yes, I did.
yeah, that's no good for me. That's no good for me. Not
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Um, Back to the episode.
This is gonna be the longest episode of our lives.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
We start with a crashed spaceship on like a desert planet. And the team finds people in stasis chambers on the ship. My next note just says like a lot of people.
That is a true
Yeah.
qualification.
And Jack says they should do a head count, so they split up, but then something massive like explodes and knocks them all out. And we get the
That's
credits. So, we're starting off on a real high note.
yeah. Yeah.
After the credits, Teal'c wakes up first and no one is responding on the radio. So he goes around and he finds Jack first and then Sam, and he checks both of them for their pulses. They're obviously live, but they don't respond. Then he finds Daniel, who sees him and just starts screaming.
This was so stressful.
And then we jump cut to the SGC, where
I thought right.
um where SG4 is like, oh, SG1's bringing, or where Walter says that SG4 is bringing SG1 back to the base for a medical check.
So I thought when Daniel screamed, it was going to be one of those like typical like sci-fi things where it's like you end up in this like almost sound chamber where you hear like just really loud noises and they scream as a reaction to it. That's what I was thought was happening at first.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, I was making sure
I
I
know what you're
explained
saying.
it.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, that never even occurred to me. I just was like, oh, he's screaming because he doesn't know who the fuck this is.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I also thought he didn't recognize, but I thought it was due to this whole situation that he was just like
okay.
over what's the word?
Stimulated.
Overstimulated and had this like screaming in his head.
Mm.
And so I thought it was like a burning pain. As
I
a
mean,
simulation.
I guess to be fair, he does both have screaming in his head and a burning pain, but we don't know that yet.
Right. Just not quite in the same way I thought it was.
Right. Jack and Sam are unconscious, but otherwise fine. Daniel is still fucking screaming and losing his shit, and he does not appear to know who any of them are or why they're there.
Yeah.
Um, Daniel is now locked in the medical isolation room, and he is losing his mind, and he says that he shouldn't be there, and that he was promised that nothing like this could happen. And that, oh, he's also talking in a funny accent the whole time. Like he has a very weird way of speaking. Um, and he will not cooperate at all.
Yeah.
Um, we find out that Daniel's EEG readings seem to show like 12 personalities, but also a coma.
That's really unfortunate.
And they've witnessed the personalities of at least three different people, none of whom are Daniel, from on board the ship, and they have no idea how this is possible. So Teal'c tells them about him falling unconscious and how he found everyone else, but we still have no idea what's going on. Um, Daniel tells us that his name is Matrice and that he is a sovereign of Thalmus, so that's why he's acting like a straight dickbag. Um,
Yup.
uh, then we go to the infirmary where Jack wakes up and he feels fine. He feels like himself. He just has a major headache. He keeps saying that there feels like a nail in his head. Um, and then Sam wakes up too. All of their scans are fine, and talking to them, they both seem like themselves. They're both completely unaffected by whatever has happened to Daniel, which, like, why wouldn't it only happen to Daniel?
I mean, everything else has.
Yeah. Um, so from here on out, my notes, I wrote the name of whichever person was talking.
Sure.
So,
Um, I do want to say, this, like you said, why wouldn't it happen to Daniel? Like everything else does. Like he left the show because he had nowhere to grow. And so instead of making these things happen to other characters, they just keep making it happen to him. We're going back in a cycle.
we'll talk about that at the,
Oh,
well,
okay.
we'll talk about that at the end. So, um, Matrice continues to attack Janet about wanting to know who she is and who he is and why he's there. And he explains that their ship, ooh, sorry, was bound for Andera. And while they're fighting, suddenly Daniel becomes another person who is as confused as Matrice, but much more cooperative.
Way more chill.
Um, he tells Janet that he went to sleep and now he's here and he has no memory of anything else in between. And he is insistent that what is happening cannot be possible. And he keeps explaining that there are fail safes in place and that a consciousness can only be restored to the body that it was in, and that what is happening is physically not possible. And that if it did happen, the strain on the body would be too much. No one person would be able to handle that, and eventually they would go insane.
Right. So what do you think is happening? Like if after this point it's like, do you just think you're in a dream still? Like are you in a dream state? This is just not happening? Are you just not accepting it?
Well,
Um,
he does realize that the only way his consciousness can be in a different body is if his body is dead,
right.
which we do also find out is true.
Mhm.
But of course, now he's having an existential crisis because could you imagine your consciousness being alive, knowing that you are dead?
Bro. I mean, the only person in the situation doing okay is the person in the coma because they have no idea what's happening. Like, that's the consciousness I would want to be in this
Yeah,
situation.
that's Daniel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I would want to be. And like,
um,
and he's still in his body, but like, I wouldn't want to deal with all the other
yeah.
stuff.
But then oh, Jack and Sam come down to the medical isolation like viewing gallery, and Teal fills them in on what's going on and all the lovely personalities that are happening through Daniel's body. And Sam is like, okay, the only correct answer is to go back to the planet and learn more about the machines and the consciousness storage tank, because otherwise we can't fix this. Which,
Mhm.
like, she's not wrong. It is dangerous. I understand why everyone else is like, that's a terrible idea. But also, why is she the first one having this idea?
I mean, that's where the technology is that you're trying to learn from. You have to do that. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's dangerous, but you don't really have another choice.
right. You can't just like
It's
talk conscious. You can't talk brains out of a brain.
right. Yeah. And we obviously don't have the technology because we've never done it. Like, even if we created the technology, it wouldn't be done like now.
Right.
So, yeah, no, that's the only
Also, at this
logical
point, they
answer.
don't even understand what the tech, what happened to know
Right.
what to create.
Yeah.
Um,
Everyone could die before they figured it out because we also don't know at this point how long they can last like that.
right. The Tryon is down there telling Janet that this is not that the human body can't handle it.
Yeah.
Is Daniel going to go insane today or tomorrow or 10 years from now? Like we what?
Or is the body gonna stop because like it's overworked? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. That's a lot to yeah.
So Tryon uh which I wrote Tyron some places but Tryon others, and I don't know where the R in that word goes.
I don't either.
Okay, cool.
Because I only picked up Almatrice's name,
Cool,
to be
cool,
quite
cool.
I watched it like 3 days ago, so
Um, in fact, no, I lied. I only wrote his name in these two places, and they're two different spellings. So that's cool.
that's fine.
I'm pretty sure it's Tryon. But He explains that even if the bodies are alive, getting them back into the correct body would be impossible because you'd have to figure out how to like separate each consciousness, which is not possible. And he does a very poignant thing because sometimes SG-1 just likes to believe that they can do anything all the time. Like they're like, fuck science,
Mhm.
we
Every
can fix
day.
it. And to be fair, thank God Daniel's not the one trying to fix this because Daniel doesn't believe in science. Like,
That's
uh,
true. That is, oh God. Could you imagine
but
if this happened to Sam instead? They would
no,
all be dead. All
everyone
of
would be
them.
dead.
Yeah.
Uh, so he takes a glass of water and he's like, if I can I ever get this exact same glass of water with these exact same molecules in this exact same order in this glass and dumps it into a full pitcher to try to pour a glass out and say this is the exact same glass of water and Janet's like no, of course you can't. He was like, well then I don't know what you think's gonna happen.
Yeah, I didn't fully grasp what he was saying until he gave this metaphor. And then I was like,
Yeah,
oh, nope, they're screwed. That's it. That's
yeah,
there's
exactly.
no
Dude.
solution. Like, he's
No,
right.
yeah. Which is why I'm like, that is sometimes they're like, let me explain science to the viewers. And they do it in like a shitty way where you still have to
Right.
know science to understand it.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, if I pour water into a big pot and then I pour it back, is it the same water?
Yeah. This water is not that water. It's like, yeah, got
That's
that.
what's happening in this brain. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, Trine can also hear all the other voices in his head, which is probably why his fucking head hurts so bad. Um, but then
Yeah.
Danielle pops out for like a second and then disappears again.
Baby Daniel.
So they go to the briefing room and Teal'c tells them that Teal'c tells them that the chamber he found Daniel below was open. Which why is that the first time this information is coming out?
Because they're all so dumb.
So dumb.
So dumb.
Because to be honest, I didn't realize it was. It wasn't until Teal'c says this that I even knew that. And I just thought something exploded. Like I thought something on the ship exploded and
Yeah.
that no one was to blame for this situation.
Right. So I did too. I didn't realize it was anything shady. And also, but like, that's like your job is to notice stuff, right? Like, it's a
And
big part
also
of
like
this whole like exploring the planets.
he clearly did notice it.
Right. And so when you know it, like, see something, say something. Like, come on.
Right.
If it looks like someone broke out of something, maybe go check it out.
Yeah.
Is
So
that the name of this episode?
see something, say something. Absolutely it is.
It's
Um,
always fun for me to watch you react and grab a pin.
yes. It's okay. I just put out because we're recording on a Thursday, so I just put out
Oh
today's
yeah.
episode. And my two options for the title, one of them was about the Bills going to the Super Bowl, so I did not use that one
Yeah.
because I'm broken. The other
Right.
one was about sun bears. So I had so much fun looking for pictures of sun bears for the podcast episode.
I have like not sat down long enough today to even like look at the
No,
podcast.
it's okay. I published it at 7:40 p.m. So
Oh, like while I was getting on the call with you. I see.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
when you called me and were like, "I'm not ready," and I was like, "Cool."
I love
Um,
it. It's okay, it's Thursday.
yeah, it's okay. Another time. Um,
Yeah.
oh, uh, and the team realizes this is where they have this conversation. The team realizes that whoever did is out is probably trying to save as many consciousnesses as possible because the ship is dying. They don't have life support. And so they realize that Daniel might be a lifeboat. Daniel is just a vessel to save people from the ship. The ship.
Well, you
Um,
know, the ship, whatever.
whatever. Um, so they decide they have to go back and check it out. Um, then this is where everything goes downhill. Janet is talking to another personality who's clearly a child. Um, while that's happening, we go back and forth, but Sam and Teal'c head out back to the planet. They take SG-12 with them because, they're down 2 team members. Because I forgot to mention, Jack does not go back to the planet. He's not in the briefing. He's not in any of this because he refuses to leave the room where Daniel is.
Yeah.
Which also means Richard Dean Anderson was not available to film that week.
True. But it also like it doesn't feel out of place because
It
he's already
doesn't,
lost
no, it
Daniel like
doesn't feel out of
73
place.
times.
It doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah.
So
That does make sense.
But knowing what I know about him and his schedule for seasons like 6, 7, 8, once his daughter was born, every time there's a very conveniently written out reason for Jack to not be doing things with the whole team, I'm always like, wonder what he was doing with his daughter that week.
Right.
Not that it's
this
done.
Must have been filmed on a Thursday.
Yeah, not that it's done poorly. Like you said, it's believable that he would stay with Daniel. I just find it funny because he's not needed in the rooms where Daniel and Janet are filming, and he's not needed in the rooms where Teal'c and Sam are filming. So he just needs to do a couple close-up shots of him at that desk, and then he's done. So while Daniel, as the little child, is talking to Janet, we get to see what was going on. Like we get an actual flashback, and we see Keenan, the little boy, being put to sleep by his dad. And then we learn the most horrific story about the fact that they have known for a very long time on this planet that they were all going to die, that a black star was going to engulf their sun and cause a solar flame, and they knew when it was going to happen. And they didn't have enough time to develop anything more than 3 ships that could take them. So they did a lottery to choose people on the planet who could go to this new planet with them. But because Keenan's dad, Farron, was an officer on the ship, he got to take one family member with him outside of the lottery. And all of the sovereigns made it in with the lottery, but Keenan's mom did not. And he wanted to stay on the planet with her, but he had to leave with his dad. And the last thing he remembers is his dad saying goodbye and putting him into a coma.
It's truly the worst. It sounds very Titanic-esque.
Yeah.
And it's awful.
But also, when I tell you that I've not for 1 second did not doubt that that was an 8-year-old boy telling me that story.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, his acting in this episode was really well done.
Then of course we get a scene that can only be rivaled in a fucking possession movie where Daniel's laying on Janet's lap crying, and then all of a sudden his hand twitches in a weird ass way, and Matrice unfortunately reappears and kicks Keenan back out and starts yelling at Janet again.
He's the worst. And the thing is, he's not actually the worst.
Oh no, he
he's
is
so annoying in this episode. I don't think he's
I think he is, because he straight up says he doesn't care if all of the people on his ship die as long as he doesn't, because he's the sovereign and he has earned the right to outlive all of them. So he's actually the worst.
That's true. He is actually the worst.
Back on the Stromos, Sam tries to figure out how anything's even functioning because the power is that low. And then weirdly, Matrice wants to know where Keenan is. He's like, I heard you talking to the boy. That made me feel like there was something even creepier happening.
But I just thought he was concerned about his well-being. I gave this man a real benefit of the doubt. I know he's a terrible person being a sovereign already, taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
But he did seem to care, at least that the like I was like, maybe he's got a little bit of feeling in it.
Oh yeah, no, I just thought he was being a dick.
He probably was. Probably was.
Um, Sam and Teal'c find Farron, which is Keenan's dad. We don't know his name really yet at that point, except for that I knew his name because that was James Park, so I researched him as the guest star.
For sure, yeah.
Um, then also Matrice and Janet are getting into a fucking screaming match. When Janet loses her shit and screams at him that she
Oh
doesn't
my
give a
God.
damn about him, I was like,
I
hell
was like,
yes.
yes, girl, I feel you.
Um, the turns out the souls in Farron's head um start explaining to Sam and Teal'c how Farron woke up and put all these souls in his head to try to save as many as he could. And also tells them that they need to carry souls too. And Sam's like, Yessie, that's not gonna happen.
See, this very felt very Gold-esque.
Right. Um, Unfortunately, it's really just someone who's absolutely desperate.
Right, right, right.
Um, it's more like the Tok'ra Queen situation than anything where it's like, please just like don't let them die.
Yeah.
But it does feel very much like, oh, you're here. I can use you.
Right. Like we're gonna just
Yeah,
use your bodies. It's gonna be fine though.
it's
Don't
gonna
worry
be
about it.
fine.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like to live with 12 consciousnesses in your head at all times?
I feel like I do already most days. So not
Um,
schizophrenic though. I'm past that. I'm past that point and diagnoses. I'm
oh
too old.
yeah. Oh, me too.
Hmm.
Ooh. I also don't hear voices. Well, no. Okay.
Don't either.
To be fair, I hear voices all the time. They're just always my husband's. He's just making weird noises all of the time.
I do hear sometimes myself making weird noises, but they are outward. They are not on
They're
the
not.
inside.
Um,
Yeah.
um, so after this whole conversation, which is honestly like I can't even describe it. It's really just something you have to watch if you haven't already watched it. But also if you haven't already watched it, don't why are you listening to the podcast? Um, the
I
conversation
will
with
say my mom listens to our podcast and doesn't watch any of these shows.
oh, thank you so much.
She
I
does not know
appreciate.
what's going on
Oh,
ever.
that's it would help if you watched.
That's what I told her. That is exactly what I said to her.
Because the scene with Farron and all of his voices talking to each other and like him the desperation that all of these people are feeling knowing that they're dead, but they that means that their entire race might also be dead. Like it really is something that like you have to watch. You have to see how James Parks
Mhm.
does this and like talks to himself. And it's a much less subtle performance than Michael Shanks because it's very much like a all these voices are actively talking to each other out loud kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's still very believable. Like it's it's not
It's
like
a very good correlation to when they do the Jekyll and Hyde scene well in the Broadway show.
yeah,
We covered
yeah.
it whenever we were doing the podcast with Unseen Artists, and so I watched like 5 different versions of this
Mhm.
stage show. And when it's done wrong, it's real clear. But when it's done like really well, it's some of the best acting
Yeah.
I've seen. And this felt like comparable to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not I was gonna say things it's not Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter in Alice in
Mhm.
Wonderland. Like it's not that level of like overtly crazy. Like
Right.
it's not camp. It's not um it's actual like torture. Like it's dramatic crazy, not like camp crazy. And
Yeah.
it's like so it's very, very good. But we discover basically that Farron can reverse it. However, in order to give Daniel his own mind back, all of those souls will just be lost. There's nowhere for them to go. And Farron can't do that, even though he scientifically, physically can. he can't do that because he knows Keenan is there.
Yeah. Which is yeah, real catch 22.
Yeah. Um, so Sam brings Farron, and Janet lets Farron come in to talk to Tryon, and he consents. Basically, the two of them decide that they will do whatever they have to do to keep their people like alive in whatever way they can and whatever's best for the population of the future. Because, oh, the thing I left out in that conversation is that Sam has figured out that she can make a Nakoda generator bump the power on the ship enough to do the full revive sequence for all of the souls that are, so they can save the people that are still unconscious.
Mhm.
The 24 that are already in the wrong heads, though, it's too late for them.
Yeah.
But the only way Sam will give Farron the generator is if he gives her Daniel back.
Right.
So Farron and Tryon are like, we will do whatever it takes to save the rest of our people. Like, this is a sacrifice we're willing to make. Like, we knew what we signed up for when we signed up to work on these ships, blah, blah, blah. However, before Tryon and Farron can act, Matrice comes out and starts ordering him to stop. And he was like, "Well, I have to. He's my sovereign. Like, if I that's what I signed up for, was to protect the sovereign. Like, blah blah blah. You don't understand." And that's when Jack steps in and he's like, "Oh no, I do understand, but fuck that guy." Like, because and Matrice basically says aloud to Farron, I don't care about saving the people of Thelmus. I don't care about you. I just care about me. And that finally kind of hits him
That's true.
the
Yeah.
wrong way.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm giving up my son to save hundreds of people. And you can't even like attempt to give a single shit. Um,
Yeah.
so then Keenan appears and he comes out to talk to his dad. And his dad apologizes, and Farron is like, there is something I'm going to be able to do, and then we'll be together. So they, what they end up doing is they end up back on the ship, connecting Daniel and Farron. And rather than figuring out a way to separate each individual person, the only one they can separate is Daniel because he basically put himself into a coma to protect his brain. And so he was never intermixed with everybody else. And so basically, all 12 personalities that were in Daniel's head are now also in Farron's head, who, as you remember, also had 12 other brains in his head. So we have no idea what he's going to
Yeah.
turn out to be. But at least he and Kanan will be lost in Crazy Town together.
What a world.
They get the generator up, they start the prep, they're going to be able to wake everybody up and take them through the gate to another planet and save their people. And Daniel wakes up and is like, damn, I have a headache. And then the episode ends. And in true Stargate fashion, we will never find out what happens to Farron. Just don't get your hopes up.
Well, of course. No,
Yeah.
I didn't have that hope. That
Good.
was this one I was like, yeah, that's
That's
the end.
it.
That's it. I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he's doing really well. Him and his 24 personalities.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I mean, even like watching Split with 7 personalities, I was like, that is a lot. 24. And I get they're not like true personalities, they're different
Yeah.
people. But like
Even sometimes even balancing the versions of myself that I am based on what job I'm doing, I don't even want to know that person.
but
Like,
also like if this body doesn't sleep, each person gets an hour a day, like to be in this body. But also like if the body doesn't sleep, it dies. So like you need
but
like
yeah,
8 hours.
but also like, how is each person gonna get a chance? And Matrice is over there being a fucking prick the whole damn time.
They gotta kill him. They gotta figure it out. Somehow eject him.
Just
I understand you can't. I know the water,
a,
whole thing with the water. I get it.
a war between fluid personality strings and the brain. Also, like, I feel like to have that much fluid movement in your brain, you're gonna get encephalitis.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, so like these people
Not
aren't even getting an
encephalitis is
hour a
not
day.
even hydrocephalus is what I meant, which
I did
is
not know that was a different thing.
hydrocephalus is what they call water in the brain. It's when
Mm,
you're with it usually you develop it from birth, but basically your brain is made with too much liquid and not enough hard matter, and you are really, really, really extra prone to head injuries. Um,
interesting.
the author Sherman Alexie has it, and so the main character in his book has it. And so I know a lot about it.
What book is this?
The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian.
Mm, I've heard of this. I've not read it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Does it so it doesn't like
It
kill you
it
immediately? Like what do
it
you
doesn't kill you. It basically just means that the like hard matter of your brain is more prone to movement because there's too much liquid in your brain. So you're very, very prone to head injuries. So like playing
Mm,
sports can be difficult. Like if you get into a car accident and get like traumatic brain injury, you're more likely to die. It just means that your brain and your head are like 3 times more sensitive to injury than an
I wonder if there's a legal case on this because there is a legal rule that is they call I don't remember the actual name of the rule because they call it the eggshell rule. And it's basically you're responsible for however your victim comes out. So like even if they're more prone to injuries, but they die because you did something that even a normal person wouldn't die from, you're still considered to have murdered
yeah.
them. And I want to know now because I did not hear that term in law
Mm.
school, but I bet it
Yeah,
stems from stuff like that.
it's called hydrocephalus.
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I hate it, but like it's
No,
interesting.
yeah. Listen, the only medical information that I can describe to you is things that either someone I know actually went through or it happened to a fictional character, but based on actual real science. That's all I got.
Yeah. I told Rachel, I was like, I'm not very good at like knowing all of the medical stuff, but I'm really good at hearing it and then just repeating it to Nick, who then will tell me what it
What it
is.
is.
So that's how I learned medical
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, no, ask Nick about it. I
Yeah.
that is one of the ones because I taught that book, not just read it for myself because I taught it multiple times. I did a lot of research of it so that I could like explain it to the kids and teach it to them when the character talked about it. So I'm like 98% sure my information is like legitimate. Otherwise, there's a lot of kids walking around who think that it's something that it's not. Because um
I'm texting Rachel so I don't forget.
okay.
Because I do want him to because he's a neurologist. He does neurology. So
Yeah.
like he for sure knows all about it. He's the one who explained all the encephalitis stuff to me when we were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about it at the
yeah.
beginning of
Well,
Hannibal.
but that's why encephalitis was on my brain, and then I was like, no, that's
Hmm.
wrong. That's what Will had. That's not the same thing. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
what Sherman had, and then I'm like, okay, nope, I got it. But he calls it water on the brain, water, hydro. Oh, hydroset. Like that's my whole
Yeah.
thought process.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it tracks when you say it. Like I can break the word down and be like, I know what that is, but
yeah,
like I just had never
uh,
heard it before.
yeah. Um,
Interesting. Yeah, poor Farron. Oh, so do you die from it? Like you don't die from it ever. It's just
I no, I'm pretty sure it's like any kind of like birth defect, basically.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, like from what I understood from my research, it's not something that is fatal. It's something that could cause other injuries to be more fatal than they would be. Like anybody who's born with anything, like if you're born with like any kind of organ deformity. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Um, yeah, I love it.
So, do you have any thoughts before I talk about the trivia, which will then turn into a whole conversation about acting and directors?
Before you get into that,
Yeah.
you kicked my brain off earlier when you said we'll we'll talk about it later about Daniel. Of
Yes.
course he's the one who had to do it because he's the only one who's been an ascended being. He's the only one whose body could have handled it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
here's my problem with that theory. Okay, so first of all, let me get into the trivia and then go
I was gonna
into
say, is this the time? Should I
part of
just
it.
wait on
Yes,
it?
part of it. No,
Okay.
because that's part. So My trivia, so Michael Shanks won the Leo Award for Best
Oh,
Acting
right. I
for
forgot
this
that was in
episode,
this one.
which absolutely.
Right.
I don't really understand what the Leo Awards are, um,
I don't know.
but uh, oh, okay. They're basically like
Canada's Emmys.
they're more localized though. They're specifically part of the Vancouver film industry. So like everything that happens in it's like
And
the
it's
goal.
arts and sciences.
Yeah, and it's film and TV. Like so it's basically everything
Mhm.
that happens in that Vancouver film world um because it is its own entity really compared like outside of Hollywood, like
Interesting.
it is its own thing. But so it wasn't like an Emmy, but the Leo Awards are the big awards for Vancouver, so like it makes sense. But so he won Best Actor for this. And this is where things get complicated in my mind.
Okay.
This episode was actually this storyline, this sci-fi thing and the brains and all of it. Brad Wright wrote during season 6 and then said, "We don't have anyone who could we what they specifically said in interviews was there isn't a character that this could happen to." So they shelved it. And then when Michael Shanks came back, they were like, "Oh, that's perfect. This is something Daniel could handle." Now, I have a very big problem with that in two senses. One, I don't like that they said it was because there wasn't a character that could handle it, because I really think what they meant that there wasn't an actor who could handle it.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that what Michael Shanks did has anything to do with Daniel as a character.
No.
His
I think
performance,
I think as a character he's the least likely to be able to handle it.
correct. I think his performance was astounding. I think he absolutely deserved an award for the
Yeah.
acting. I think it had fuck all to do with Daniel.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
what you said brings up what the other point was about, okay, Daniel was an ascended being. However, we no longer have a character that is human.
Hmm.
Jack has been mind brain melded with a Tok'ra and a Goa'uld. Sam has been mind melded with a Tok'ra. Jonas was not entirely human to begin with. Teal'c is not entirely human. Daniel was part now lost from being ascended. You cannot tell me that any one of them is more or less human brained. They no longer
Yeah,
have that as the out. They no longer can
right.
be like, oh, you're the only person who can do it because you were never a Tok'ra. You're the only person who can do it because your mind was never. They've lost that as an out.
Yeah.
So their defense of the character still doesn't make sense.
See, my only thought with that is that, like, yes, I think all of them could handle it in general, but my reasoning for why it would be Daniel would be like an ascended being has more capacity in general. And I know he's back on Earth now, but that means that his body has already expanded more than the others, like, have to an extent.
But
And maybe
but
I'm,
yes,
yeah.
maybe. But Jack also downloaded the entire ancient memory database into his
Oh,
head.
that's true. I forgot about that. I
Right.
did forget about that.
I genuinely I think that that Michael Shanks doing it was the right choice. I think that
Yeah.
his acting was the right choice. I think the explanation of it being character based is a cop out because I don't think it
Yeah.
is. I don't think I think that it couldn't be Sam because Sam has
Yeah.
to solve the problem.
Right.
And that's about where the line ends. I understand it not being Teal'c because Teal'c will wake up first from an explosion, blah blah blah, be the one to wake people up. Like I kind of
But
see.
also, Tilk's body is like, I feel like a little more under the weather lately than everyone else because it's been through a lot more recently. And I know he's still on the like the stuff that
The,
the Toker are making,
yeah,
but like he's had so much more stress on his body
but
lately.
also he has a non-human immune system. Don't you think his body would actually be
Yeah,
able to handle 12 consciousnesses better?
maybe.
So like, and I think there is
Yeah.
I think there is an argument for it. I found it to be so infuriating that in every
Yeah.
interview they were like, there was just no character that could do it in season
Oh yeah,
six.
no, I
And I was like,
absolutely think that.
but just say that you didn't think that Cormac was a good actor. Like just say
But and also like
it.
what stops you from, if that's true, having a guest star that's the person that gets it all downloaded into their brain? Because then also you could
No,
theoretically kill them off if you had to.
yeah, but I think if it's a guest star and we don't care about getting them back, we don't care if they solve the problem or save the people.
Mm,
Everybody can just die. So it does have to be someone we care about.
I see. I see. Yeah, yeah. That
Because
makes
if
sense.
we don't get Daniel back, then cool, you take these 12 consciousness, you all take your weird head things and you all leave. And we don't have to give you the generator, we don't have to save your people.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, no, I do agree that the character argument's a bad one.
Yeah,
Um,
and I was just like, as I was going through all like the Gate World interviews and like reading everything on it, they just kept saying things about like there was just no character that would really be able to handle this, and I was so mad about it. I was like, just say we really wrote it, and then realized that Michael Shanks would be the only one who could do it.
right.
Like
And I do think Michael Shanks is a better actor than Cormac McCarthy, is that his last name?
Cormac McLagan.
McLagan. I was like, that's not right. But
No,
I don't
no,
think he's
that's
a bad actor.
guys. Cormac McLagan is a character from Harry Potter. Corin
Oh my God,
Nemec.
it is. What's his name?
Corin
Nemec.
Nemec.
Look,
I was with you.
hold
I
on.
said Cormac first, and then I was with you, and then I was like, yeah, and then I was like, that's for sure a Hufflepuff.
That's
Like
for
that's
sure. Yeah, that's not it.
no.
Yeah, no, I
I
don't think
no,
he's a bad actor, but I do think they just didn't like him, and I don't like this person now,
and
which
that's
is a real
and
bummer.
right, and that's fine. Like I'm not mad about that.
But also, just don't say anything about season six. Just be like, we wrote it and
Yeah,
then it
like
didn't
why
fit in
did
our
why
timeline. Like,
right? Like why say we had more scripts than we could use, and this one wasn't the
right.
best? Like
Yeah.
it just feels really weird to say
It's
it. It's
unnecessary.
unnecessary, and it's also just like it makes you think about like what was it? What were they thinking about these characters? Like what do they think happened in this episode that I didn't see? Because
Right. And maybe they meant it because they wanted to take a shot at Corin.
right.
Like maybe that was the whole thing because they did all seem to be really upset with him after
Yeah.
everything. So like maybe they were just mad and that was their way of
Right.
taking a shot at him.
Right. So
Um,
that was why I was like I have a lot to say about this because I just also like don't this sci-fi shows that are very character driven fall into traps sometimes because they want to be good sci-fi stories, like good
right.
standalone sci-fi stories, but they build so much up on these specific characters. And then they even worse than that because there's occasionally times where they do these weird stories and I'm like that just doesn't even feel like something Daniel would say, but it was the only
Right.
person who could say it to make that happen. This episode, the only character who had to be doing what they were doing was Janet.
Yeah.
No, everyone else could have been interchangeable with someone else.
Mhm.
Because even Sam, she came up with a solution. She figured out the Naquita generator could do the problem, but it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't, oh
No.
my God, only I could have thought of this problem. It wasn't a solving a equation that nobody else has solved. It was going somewhere, realizing they needed power, bringing a power generator. Any
Yeah.
science officer could have done that.
One of the 12 personalities in Daniel's head could have come up with that.
Right. Teal'c didn't do anything this episode, to be 100% honest, other
He
than
just made sure everyone was awake.
right. Jack actually did nothing in this episode. Quite literally, the only character who needed to be themselves was Janet. So,
Yeah.
how did you have no character that could do this last season? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then
Right.
it doesn't make sense to me when writers say things like that, knowing that that we can see that
Yeah.
that isn't real.
Right. They're just gaslighting us.
And I have been gaslit so much in the last 3 weeks. I am done. If Ashton Kutcher doesn't show up to my house and tell me I've been unpunked, I'm out. And so for Brad Wright to retroactively gaslight me 12 years later is too much.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that so hard.
I apologize for the outburst.
Don't apologize. It
No,
was
I don't.
warranted.
I don't actually apologize. It's some bullshit. Um,
Oh,
if you have also been gaslit retroactively by sci-fi writers, feel free to send us a message. I would really love to hear how you're coping.
if you have also been victimized by Regina George, that is
um,
exactly how it sounded like you were saying.
um, you can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com or follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And I'm not going to say goodbye yet because that's just going to be a weird place where we plug that into the middle of the episode because I didn't ask you who you wanted to punch in the face.
As you started saying that, I was like, whoa, we skipped a step.
Yeah.
Patrice, I mean, everyone else didn't really suck.
Yeah.
So he's the one. He sucks.
I'm gonna. I understand why he did what he did, and I feel for him, but I'm gonna try and punch Farron because you can't non-consensually put people's
You
brains
can't
into other
trap
people's brain.
24 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who is your MVP?
I mean, Michael Shanks as a whole,
Right.
I think would be my MVP this episode.
Okay. I'm gonna say Janet because she fucking
Yeah.
owned that shit.
I did love I could see the frustration and I felt her frustration and I was like, girl, this feels like me. This feels like me after a long day. This feels like me my business meeting 2 nights ago. And I was like,
Yeah.
just tell me what I'm asking you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. All's well.
All's well. So that's a weird order to do things, but I'm not gonna repeat all the handles because I already said
That's
them.
okay. I think we did it all though.
We did. We did it all now.
We
Unless
can end by saying it's been a really long time since we've said like go like us and stuff. Like
yeah,
subscribe, follow. These are all
yeah.
things that you can do to help.
If you like, subscribe, follow, share stuff. If you have ideas or things you want us to do, like on TikTok or Instagram, like mini
Oh
videos
my
and
God,
stuff like that, please tell us because we both do too
Suck.
much to also be social media managers, but then we can't get new followers because we don't have social media.
Yeah, I had this really grand idea that I was gonna post this really fun TikTok that I had like scripted in my head on Sunday to be like, did you miss us? XOXO Gossip Girl, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then my world ended. It's been a really stressful week for me. And so it did not happen. But I did have this really grand idea for TikTok for our first episode back from our hiatus.
Can I tell you, I had a really grand idea for my own personal TikTok for like November that I was gonna make me super popular because it was gonna be a book talk TikTok and everybody was gonna follow me. Still haven't made it.
Yeah, it's okay. I thought about putting a mental health spiral on my own TikTok, and then I was like, bad idea. Let's come out of the spiral and then try again.
Yeah, no.
So I didn't.
Yeah.
Well.
Well, now that TikTok's not banned,
for at least 90 days.
Yeah. Help us. Yeah, help us make sure it survives or something. I don't know.
We are in control. We are the life or death of TikTok. We gotta go.
We gotta go. All right. We'll see you guys on Thursday for probably an even more unhinged episode than this one just was.
Absolutely. See ya.
Bye.